Denied an explanation of what went wrong. New insight from the military on fatigue and the breakdown in training that led to deadly accidents in the Pacific.
Homeless people are being singled out. It's kind of like, we're being black sheep from community.
Cruel or necessary? We'll hear from both sides of the debate on a strategy to stop the hepatitis outbreak.
I am patriot not because I was born here. I am patriot because to become Americans, we have struggled.
A Gold Star father sharing the story of his American family and his message of tolerance for San Diego. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. As the local hepatitis A outbreak grows, the city of San Diego is now meeting less often about the crisis. A special hepatitis A coordination team used to meet daily about the ongoing efforts, but now that's changing. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is downtown outside of City Hall with more. Matt?
Yeah, Ebony, the city of San Diego's Hepatitis A Coordination Center is no longer going to be meeting on a daily basis. Back in September, Mayor Kevin Faulconer announced the opening of the center, which meets right behind me here at City Hall downtown. Now, this is where departments like fire, sanitation, and the mayor's office all get together to discuss ongoing efforts like the number of vaccinations, portable bathrooms, and where city streets are being sanitized and cleaned. When the center first opened, there were over 400 confirmed Hep A cases and 16 deaths. It's now a little over a month later, and there are nearly 100 more confirmed cases and 4 more deaths. Mayor Kevin Faulconer's senior press secretary, Greg Block, says the hepatitis meetings will now continue only on an as-needed basis.
In the beginning, it was everybody had to be in the same room together to figure out roles and responsibilities. As you go along, you kind of figure out, okay, that person doesn't necessarily need to be here. That person's better, we need them out in the field.
Yeah, guys, and speaking of personnel changes, when the center was first opened, the mayor seemed to tout the fact that John Valencia, the city's director of Office of Homeland Security, was going to be running operations. But we found out, actually, at some point, he was sent back to active duty with the Marines, and the city won't confirm if he's here back in San Diego now. But right now, we know that the hepatitis meetings will continue to be run by the city's assistant chief operating officer. Here live at downtown, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Thanks, Matt. The city of El Cajon is fighting homelessness and hepatitis A with controversial new ordinances. Homeless people say the measures are cruel. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy has more.
Serving meals to groups of homeless people in parks and other public spaces is now against the law in El Cajon. So is panhandling, sleeping on the sidewalk, and setting up a tent.
It's like, don't feed the birds. Next thing you know, it'll be like, don't feed the humans at the park, It's like, that's horrible. It's degrading. It makes you feel like you're smaller.
35-year-old Michael McGow says he's been homeless in El Cajon most of his life. The city has one of the highest poverty rates in the county at 24%.
I remember being like 8 and 9 years old on these streets, running around with people my age and no kind of guidance or any of that.
McGow says he's never felt so hopeless. He says the city's new ordinances have dug him into a deeper hole.
What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to live? Are we not human?
El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells says skyrocketing drug use is the reason behind the city's new ban on panhandling.
If you're giving somebody $10 and you're hoping they're going to use it for food, I understand that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But the reality is they're not using it for food. They're using it for crystal methamphetamines. They're using it for alcohol. They're using it for opiates. And all these things perpetuate homelessness, and they perpetuate diseases like hepatitis A.
Signs posted at dozens of intersections urge the public to donate to homeless outreach providers instead of giving money to people holding cardboard signs. Wells says his city is pouring money into services and housing to help people like McGow.
We want people to be able to get off the streets, but if you do that, you're going to have to follow some rules, and you're going to have to not use drugs and alcohol while you're in our programs.
Those who decline services are facing increased enforcement.
We're not going to let people have tents on the streets. We're not going to let tent cities grow up. We're not going to let people just sleep wherever they want to sleep. We're going to maintain some rules and some discipline.
Another new city rule aims to stop the spread of hepatitis A. El Cajon has the second largest concentration of the illness in the county. It's also believed to be where the outbreak began.
And the best way to stop that is by stopping transmission, I know it's kind of gross, but of fecal matter from the hands to the mouth.
So a food sharing ban is now in effect. Church groups and charities are prohibited from providing the dozens of weekly potluck-style meals to throngs of homeless people at city parks. Mayor Wells says food needs to be prepared, cooked, and served in a more sanitary way.
There are lots of places where people can still get meals. Lots of the churches are taking the meals out of the parks and into their kitchens, which that makes a lot more sense.
Pastor Roland Slade's congregation at Meridian Southern Baptist Church of El Cajon has served lunch to dozens of people at Wells Park every Saturday for years.
Macaroni and cheese, some serve, stew or pizza.
Now they're looking for alternative ways to help. Last Saturday, the church distributed clothing and restaurant gift cards.
The part that's missing is the fellowship that we have with them, getting to know their story. And once you get to know a person's story, you're able to help them with the resources that they need.
Slade says he understands the city's efforts, but wants to have more dialogue.
I think the city's trying to deal with it from their point of view and from laws, ordinances, and regulations. And like I said, the faith community, we understand that, but we also need to come to the table and be there with a creative solution.
29-year-old Alessa Williams, who has lived on the streets of El Cajon for 2 years, says she often relied on the church's meals in the park.
There have been days when I feel like it saved my life. I pray and I thank God every day, for the people that help.
She says the strict new measures are making it harder for her to break her homeless cycle.
Basically, I feel like homeless people are being singled out. It's kind of like, we're being black sheep from community.
She was unable to finish her thought as police rolled up to ask her and her homeless friends to move along. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
In a second report in 2 days, the Navy says fatigue, poor training, and top commanders ignoring safety concerns all played a role in a series of mishaps in the Western Pacific, including the collisions that killed 17 sailors this summer. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh has this report.
After the Navy announced yesterday that crews of the USS McCain and Fitzgerald were responsible for collisions this summer, a new report looked at problems with the Navy. Chief of Naval Operations Admiral John Richardson says the pace of operations in the Pacific pushed commanders until they slowly ignored training requirements and basic seamanship, though he stopped short of saying that the crashes were inevitable.
I would say that what happened was a gradual erosion of the margin to safety. And so when the system has that and you get this reduced margin to safety, you combine that with the stressful situation, then you're much more vulnerable.
Among the findings, lack of sleep is an issue. The Navy has already taken steps to make sure sailors have predictable watch schedules and sleep times. There were serious lapses in training. On board the USS McCain, none of the officers on the bridge knew how to operate the controls after a steering malfunction. Richardson also issued guidance today to commanders throughout the fleet, asking them to comment on the issues they see around them. Something of interest to San Diego, Navy leadership did not call for more ships to be sent to the Pacific to help with the pace of operations. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The Navy wants to reclaim the land where the San Onofre nuclear power plant now sits as soon as it's safe. KPBS North County reporter Allison St. John spoke to a Marine Corps officer who will address a panel tonight that's keeping the public informed on the plant's shutdown.
The San Onofre nuclear power plant shut down in 2012, and every few weeks its owner, Southern California Edison, holds a meeting to keep the public engaged in the decommissioning process. Tonight, it's the Marine Corps' turn to talk. They're looking forward to getting their land back. Marine Corps Government Liaison Tom Callan says part of the San Onofre site, parcels 6 and 7 on this map, that's about 50 acres east of Interstate 5, is already being cleared, and the Marines hope to have it back by 2030. But the other acres by the coast, the area in red, will take much longer. That's because the current plan is to store the nuclear waste indefinitely on that site on the beach, just 100 feet from the ocean. Collins says Camp Pendleton began in the 1940s and Congress approved building the nuclear plant on the base in the 1960s. He says the Marines would like to take back that part of the coastline for training.
What was sufficient training space in 1942 is very insufficient today. We would like very much to return the land to training. We would like to be able to have access across the beach at the north end of the base so that we could move inland from not just one axis down south. We would like to expand that.
Many groups want the nuclear waste moved off the beach. Callan says to his knowledge no one has asked the Marines if it could be stored elsewhere on base. But he says that's out of the question anyway because they train with artillery and explosives, not a good mix with nuclear waste. From the KPBS North County Bureau, I'm Alison St. John.
Republicans in Congress say if they get their way, you'll be able to fill out your taxes on a form the size of a postcard. A major tax reform bill that would deliver deep cuts to individual and corporate tax rates is out. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan talked today about the centerpiece of the Republican agenda.
We have not reformed the tax code since 1986. The world is passing this country by, and we're losing jobs and companies as a result of it. So the political will among the members here in the House, as shown by the members of the Ways and Means Committee, is ironclad to get this done, because if we don't do this, we will not get the kind of economic potential that we know we can reach. And the fact that people are living paycheck to paycheck in this country, about half of people are living that, they need a break.
If Republicans can't get this done, do you deserve to control the Congress?
What's your second question? We're going to get this done. You know why? Because the American people are counting on us. We're going to get this done because we told the American people this is what we're going to do if we get this majority. And guess what? We're doing it.
Criticism of the tax reform bill include a major jump in the federal deficit and the elimination of some popular tax deductions. PBS NewsHour will go in depth on the bill's details and how it would impact taxpayers. That's tonight at 7. In the past 5 years, the California legislature has paid out at least $580,000 to settle harassment, racism, and other claims. This according to documents obtained by the Associated Press, and some say this is just the tip of the iceberg.
I think we're going to start seeing a lot more names being dropped of both legislators and influential people in this town. I think that this is the way that the town has operated for many, many years, not unlike Hollywood, not unlike the media, or any industry, frankly, wherever there is a concentration of power, and there is in all of them.
How the legislature handles such complaints has become a subject of intense scrutiny in the last 2 weeks, since about 140 women lawmakers, lobbyists, and staffers signed a letter deploring what they call a culture of sexual harassment at the state capitol. $145 million in federally subsidized meals went unclaimed in San Diego County during the 2015-2016 school year. This according to a new report from the San Diego Hunger Coalition, which finds meals that would have gone to eligible children from low-income families. KPBS education reporter Megan Burks has more.
Kids who are eligible for free or reduced price lunches are also eligible for federally subsidized breakfasts and after-school suppers. But a lot of schools and after-school programs aren't offering those meals, or they're paying out of pocket for food the federal government would cover.
A smaller upfront investment of time and resources to get a federal nutrition program started is it's sustainable year after year, and it's much more cost-effective and much more broad sweeping.
To help communities claim these untapped dollars, the Hunger Coalition has compiled data and recommendations specific to each school district in the county. Countywide, the nonprofit estimates 1 in 5 children live in households without enough food. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Too expensive and poorly funded. Those are the takeaways from a new poll on higher education in California. The poll of likely voters was conducted by the Public Policy Institute of California. It found 3 out of 4 respondents think students have to borrow too much money to go to college. More than 60% say state funding is too low.
We feel that it's important for people in Sacramento and policymakers and legislators and also the heads of the systems to know kind of what Californians are feeling.
The state legislature is trying to work on the issue. Governor Jerry Brown recently signed a bill that waives first-year fees for community college students. Enrollment counselors were on hand today to help San Diegans sign up for health insurance. The Covered California bus made a stop at San Diego's La Maestra Clinic, joined by Executive Director Peter Lee and Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher. It's part of a 22-stop tour across the state to raise awareness about the state's insurance marketplace under the Affordable Care Act. The open enrollment period started Wednesday and goes through January 31st. Rolando will be the test community for a new program aimed at reducing dangerous driving on residential streets. The Pace Car program is a partnership with the Rolando Community Council and San Diego Police. It's an awareness and pledge campaign to slow down and drive the speed limit. One man who lives on Argonne Drive says navigation apps are directing more cars and more speeders through his neighborhood.
That hopefully this will get people to slow down and just think about things, that they are driving through a community and maybe they need to leave 5 minutes earlier to get somewhere, but that we really believe that this should be a safe area and we think we can do something about that.
City leaders say the Pace Car program will be expanded to other neighborhoods if it proves to be effective. San Diego Congressman Scott Peters is in Rome preparing for a Vatican conference on climate change. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has the story.
Congressman Scott Peters is part of a large California delegation that includes Governor Jerry Brown and Scripps researcher V. Ramanathan. He hopes to encourage the Catholic Church to continue to press forward on the moral responsibility of facing and dealing with climate change. Now, Peters says California is already a climate change leader.
It's a bipartisan effort. It's an effort that understands economic opportunity is connected with this, and it's an effort that rejects the false choice between a clean environment and a prosperous economy. In fact, we're proving that you can have both.
Peters says that he wants to let the conference know that there are members of Congress willing to deal with the issue, even though the president wants to move the country in another direction. He's encouraged that the Catholic Church and evangelical churches are speaking out about the impact of climate change. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A wet morning for fishing in North County. People packed their umbrellas along with bait on the Oceanside Pier. The first weekend in November is going to feel like fall with cooler weather and a chance of rain in San Diego. Aaron Calandra has a closer look at the changing weather in tonight's forecast.
Taking a look at our satellite and radar today, not much going on. We could see maybe just a few showers in the northwestern tip of our county, but for the most part, it is staying pretty dry across much of the region. Taking a look at the larger picture, we do have some storms to the north of us. Right now, things are kind of quiet throughout California. That is certainly going to be changing over the next couple of days as a cold front very slowly pushes to the south. 60 degrees tonight, cloudy conditions overnight and also in the morning. It's going to be a bit foggy, a bit cloudy, especially along the coast. 51 in Oceanside, San Diego 60, Poway 53 degrees, Alpine, Ramona 47, Borrego Springs 52 degrees for our lows. Here we are on Friday. For now, we are still dry and pleasant, but look at that rain creeping in, even some snow in the Sierras. That rain, it's going to eventually reach us in the form of showers, very brief in places. We're still watching this because we're kind of right on the edge. So at this point, we're thinking some brief showers across the area in a couple of places, but nothing major. So Poway tomorrow 73 degrees, Oceanside 71, San Diego as well, Alpine 67, Ramona 69, and Mount Laguna 58 degrees. It's going to be sunny. Here's the national look this weekend, and we do see that rain pushing to the south again. It's going to become pretty windy across the deserts, and we are seeing snow, a wintry mix here far to the north. It is that time of the year. Saturday and Sunday, a shower in places. Temperatures staying warm right at 70 degrees and then drying out. Inland, again, a shower in places Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures still pretty warm in the upper to mid 70s, which is right around average. In the mountains, much cooler in the 50s. Could see a shower in places, mainly on Saturday. And then in the desert, staying warm, nearly 80 degrees much of the week, and no rain here. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
A Gold Star father comes to San Diego to share a message of tolerance. Kizer Khan and his wife were first introduced to the nation when they took the stage at last year's Democratic National Convention. Recently, we spoke about his new book, An American Family, and about the message he shared with San Diego school students at the Anti-Defamation League's No Place for Hate Leadership Conference.
I say in the book that I am patriot not because I was born here. I am patriot because to become Americans, we have struggled. And so here we are, enshrined with all the dignities and goodness of this nation and goodness of this country.
It's been about a year since you took the stage at the DNC.
Our son, Humayun, had dreams too of being a military lawyer, but he put those dreams aside the day he sacrificed his life to save the lives of his fellow soldiers.
How did that moment change your life and impact what you're doing right now?
Well, we were hoping that after that speech, we will just go home and resume our privacy and our peace and our normal life, but that did not happen. Today, I came to join hands with ADL in San Diego, Anti-Defamation League, and their message of civility in our discourse to our children. This is my 163rd event, and the message has been a message of hope, message of building bridges with one another, and reminding us what our democratic values are. This bullying in a school, this hateful speech, this display of racism, these are all undemocratic. We live in democracy, we are people of democracy. In democracy, the basic salient feature of democracy is civility.
And as you tour the nation spreading this message of tolerance, you're actually from Charlottesville. That's where you live in with your family?
Yes, since 2005, we are residents of Charlottesville. Yes, same Charlottesville that had been in the news. And I was there on 12th of August on Friday evening. I understand freedom of speech, but they were carrying rifles and multiple guns. And that was so threatening. I was worried. I looked around, people that were standing on the streets. I saw the fear on their faces. Most of us sat down in the car fearing that something unfortunate may happen. And then I saw something that I had never in my wildest imagination could think of. I saw the Nazi flag on the streets of Charlottesville, carried by these neo-Nazis and chanting the ugliest chants that I have ever heard.
How do you feel about the state of America when it comes to tolerance?
Yeah, there is a lack of leadership. Lack of leadership incites lack of tolerance. And the behavior of our leaders in Washington has incited the lack of tolerance. But that is not democratic character.
How do you think your son would respond to all of the work that you've been doing?
Many a times that question is asked, and he would be so proud that we have continued this conversation throughout the nation with the difficulties, lack of peace and comfort, under the grace and the light that he left us with, caring for others. He died, he gave his life in protection of others. That's his legacy, and we have continued. From the proceeds of the book, this is what we have done. We have set up a scholarship at University of Virginia in the name of Captain Humayun Khan Memorial Scholarship on need-based in perpetuity. So some good continues to come out of that sacrifice and our struggle and effort.
Dr. Khan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
After a Hollywood ending for the Houston Astros in LA, they're back home tonight as World Series champs.
Sanchez success. Here's a ground ball right side, could do it. The Houston Astros are world champions for the first time in franchise history.
Houston closed out a dramatic series with their Game 7 win over the Dodgers. The city welcomed them back today, and the party is just getting started. Tomorrow will include a big championship parade leading to a rally at Houston City Hall. Today, people who have passed away are being celebrated during the Day of the Dead. Dia de los Muertos originated in Mexico. Today, people at San Diego Continuing Education took part. People who celebrate traditionally put up altars, honoring family members who have passed away. The altars are decorated with candles, pictures, and sugar skulls.
It has been put together by our ASB program and together with the student services and faculty. So the students are invited to build altars that represent the history of Dia de los Muertos and their loved ones, and to celebrate them and welcome them.
The Day of the Dead is a two-day celebration. A number of events took place today in Old Town and other sites around San Diego County. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.